The Universe of Eon is one big school for souls, and the educational system is divided into 3 parts. The physical densities 1 to 4, the semi-physical realms 5 to 8, and the light heavens 9 to 12. Density, realm, and heaven are 3 words that we use synonymously. Even though we speak of 12 separate densities, there is no clear border in between the different levels of consciousness. Think of this as the planetary atmosphere with a dense air on the ground level, but a gradual thinning as you move higher up. A human functions well on the surface of the planet, but cannot survive in space. Since there is no border between the densities, a person that is ascending might be living in 2 heavens simultaneously. As you are allowing the brighter light of the higher realm to fill you, you are simultaneously releasing the denser energy of the lower realm. Most humans are currently on the 3rd density of Terra, but there are already a considerable number of people holding a 4th density consciousness. Let's describe these 12 heavens in another way. Densities 1 to 3 are part of kindergarten. The 4th realm is preschool. Densities 5 and 6 are comparable to elementary school. Realms 7 and 8 could be described as high school, and finally the heavens 9 to 12 are the 4 university levels of Eon. On densities 1 to 8, source energy expresses itself through the manifestation of matter, and thereby various degrees of physicality is part of the experience. Free will is a sacred concept on these lower realms. In order to understand this chapter better, please allow yourself to think of time as a geometrical structure where the past, present, and future are accessible by choice. Try replacing the word time with expansion, and please remember that the perception of time varies with planets and densities and is therefore not comparable. The experience of life happens on 3 levels simultaneously: a collective soul group level, an individual mother soul level, and finally a soul fragment level. The soul fragment is created by a mother soul, often referred to as the higher being, when it wishes to connect to matter. A mother soul can create as many soul fragments needed in order to have the life experience it desires. Each mother soul has an original soul group, often referred to as a soul family, but can also join secondary families when needed, and this happens continuously in Eon. All universes are the creation of the original fractals of source energy that we refer to as the 9. There is consciousness in everything from plasma and elementary particles to crystals, animals, and plants. The physical world that surrounds you is a manifestation of the collective consciousness. A forest, mountain, and lake are direct manifestations of the collective thoughts by various soul families. The nature that surrounds you right now is therefore the collective desire of all souls focused on that particular area where you are. Soul families focused on planet Terra are all part of the collective planetary consciousness called Gaia. Souls start their journey on the first density, and this experience is a collective one. Soul families manifest planets, solar systems, and galaxies and become part of these creations' true focus and consciousness. All manifestations of matter is a consequence of the law of attraction, meaning that the frequency of a particular thought determines what is materialized and experienced. On the second realm, soul families create life forms in the seas and skies, on land and in the soil, but also in space. Generally speaking, an individual soul attaches to an animal or being only when the species has reached a high enough level of self-awareness. This happens on the third density and to only a few species that we refer to as avatars. When a soul wishes to connect to a particular avatar on the third density, a soul fragment is created and connected to that avatar body. The soul fragment experiences life in amnesia, separated from the greater part of itself. The mother soul, or the higher being if you prefer, is present on all 12 densities simultaneously and has access to all information from all lives lived on all densities and timelines. On Terra right now there are more than 500 species that can be used by individual souls if needed and desired. The human species is the main one, and each human is linked to a particular soul fragment. Furthermore, many other species such as dolphins, whales, sharks, felines, canines, horses, elephants, certain lizards, snakes, monkeys, they are also capable of hosting a particular soul fragment. But these animals in the wild are more often connected to a soul family rather than a soul fragment. When speaking about ascension, always remember that soul fragments ascend, whereas nature evolves. Nature has no need to ascend since it is merely a manifestation of thoughts, an illusion of matter created by souls. Life on a planet is illusionary, but the lessons that soul fragments deal with leads to soul growth, which is highly valuable and real indeed. This knowledge is later turned into wisdom by the higher being. If an individual soul wishes to experience life as, let's say, a tree, a fish, a water molecule, or a crystal, it might choose to connect a soul fragment to these forms of matter even though they are not avatar species. However, soul fragments are generally not connected to particular trees but instead part of the forest, and likewise not connected to a water particle but part of the lake. But a soul has free will and can attach to anything it desires, and this is done of mainly two reasons. First and foremost, experiencing life is a fun activity for souls. Secondly, it leads to greater self-realization. Souls are longing for new life experiences, and generally speaking, it has tried most expressions of life by the time it graduates from the University of Eon. Always remember that a soul can experience many lives on several densities simultaneously, and that all lives that have ever been lived on any planet are accessible to everyone. This is the core of the Law of One, which all starseeds need to learn. You are all one, but divided into countless fractals. Time is not linear from the soul's perspective, and ascension consequently doesn't happen in a linear fashion. Your current life in human body is only one of many life expressions that your soul is engaged in. It can focus on the past, present, and future simultaneously and is aiming at reaching a complete understanding of itself. Each soul follows a plan, such as wishing to experience the concept of peace from various perspectives. This mission can be translated into thousands of lives on many planets and densities in order to experience peace and the lack thereof. This results in the self-realization needed in order to graduate to the next realm. It is soul fragments that graduate and ascend. The mother soul is already present on all densities and does not need to ascend. One simple way of describing ascension is that the soul fragment wishes to reunite with the mother soul. This requires them to experience many lives until reaching the 9th heaven, where all soul fragments automatically reunite with their higher being. However, also your mother soul is aiming at reaching a higher degree of oneness, which in their case means merging with all members of their original soul family. The soul families in turn wish to reunite with the 9. Finally, the 9 are hoping for a return back to oneness with source energy itself. Oneness is the ultimate goal on all levels, but reaching a complete unification is not your immediate goal as a soul fragment in a human body. Self-realization is your mission. You are on the right path as long as you are working on getting to know yourself better. Let us summarize. On the first density, there is great focus on the quantum level. Elementary particles come together in the creation of galaxies, suns, and planets. On the second realm, various life forms take shape, but they are primitive and in an early stage of evolution. On the third density, certain species, like the human, start developing awareness of self. At that stage, the species is ready to carry individualized consciousness, and thereby it becomes an avatar for starseeds and soul fragments to use and incarnate into. There is strong amnesia affecting all life forms on densities 1 to 3. The increasingly weaker gravity on realms 4 to 8 allows for greater remembering and conscious reconnection to the soul aspect of the being. Once an avatar being has reached a certain level of spiritual evolution, the individual is pushed by universe towards choosing polarity. This process starts on the third density, but the species is still heavily affected by the strong veil of amnesia. Spiritual maturity is then hard to achieve, and during this period many species create various belief systems. These collective thought patterns make the individual discovery of the divine a slow and difficult process. Third density belief systems often result in service to self structures such as top-down rule, manipulation, power play, and control agendas. However, the conscious choosing of a negative polarity of service to self or a positive polarity of service to others is a requirement for ascension into the 5th heaven. Therefore, this universe allows for strict belief systems to form on the third density, but also pushes towards their collapse on the 4th in order for individual and collective ascension to take place. This happens thanks to the veil of amnesia starting to lift and people remembering more of their life mission. On the fourth density, two groups or societies are forming, and the separation of the two opposing polarities can be either an easy and fast process or, alternatively, a difficult and chaotic one. The length of the fourth density varies a lot and is dependent on how fast the two groups are waking up and drifting apart. On the fifth realm, whole planets become either positively or negatively polarized. On the sixth density, intergalactic structures of either polarity are forming. On the seventh realm, groups of galaxies unite under one flag. Finally, on the eighth density, all corners of the physical universe come together in oneness and unconditional love. Even though polarity theoretically needs to be chosen on an individual level every day on the densities 4 to 8, in reality, most star beings tend to stay on the same path all through the Ascension process. The ratio 80-20 in favor of the positive path is stable and called the golden ratio, which we try to upkeep with the help of the Ramakesh peacekeeping force as described in previous chapter. When graduating from the last semi-physical level or the eighth density, a being has totally understood oneness and the law of one. That moment marks the beginning of the light realms, and there are 4 levels to this master's program, densities 9 to 12. When reaching the 9th heaven, the soul fragment reunites with the mother soul, often referred to as their higher being, and free will is no longer an option, as service to others and unconditional love is the essence of all souls. But separation is still present, and therefore a certain degree of individuality, even though the collective experience is increasingly emphasized. Souls on the light realms experience lesser separation from their soul families with each higher density up until the final graduation on the 12th realm. After graduating from the University of Eon, a soul completely merges with its soul family, and the individuality experienced in Eon is completely lost. The accumulated knowledge gathered by all members of the soul family through all 12 densities of Eon then turns into collective wisdom. Outside of Eon, the soul family is at the disposal of the 9 and used for continuous expansion in new ways. We, the Arcturians, do not know what happens next and can't access that information with complete clarity. We are also experiencing a form of veil of amnesia that covers the entire universe. Next chapter will focus on the 26,000-year Ascension cycle that ended in 2012 on Terra. It is graduation time for humans, and we refer to this moment as the harvest. Until next time, rise, Starseeds of Terra. Rise to your new golden age.